Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Jack or the Mac or Jack Sports Show. And this is our Football Sunday edition, where it covers all your Northeastern local sports, New York, Boston, and Philly. You can follow us live on Mac Sports Facebook page. Just go to @MacMan62 on Facebook search, and it'll bring you right to us. Also, Google us at Mac and Jack Sports, and you'll see us going live on YouTube and Twitch, and you can even see our latest and past shows. Like, follow, share, and subscribe where you can to help us keep growing. I'm Mac with my co-host, legendary boxing sports writer, Jack Hirsch, former president of the Boxing Writers Association, and sports historian gatekeeper. How you doing today, my New York friend?
Hey, I'm doing great, Mac. Exciting game last night. So it's still a carryover into this morning. And we have a lot yet to come.
Yes, sir. I mean, we watched the World Series because it's such a big event, even though it's not our local team sometimes. And last night was one of the most exciting World Series games I've seen in recent history, Jack. With the Tampa Bay Rays and the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Dodgers being the favorite in the beginning of the year and the favorite coming into the series. And last night, Tampa Bay showed a lot of determination, coming back and beating them in the bottom of the ninth. I mean, the Rays ended up winning 8-7 in Game 4, tying the series in at two apiece. There was 15 runs, Jack, 25 hits, and a crucial error by the Los Angeles catcher to allow the Rays to win the game in the bottom of the ninth. Justin Turner homered in the first to give the Dodgers a 1-0 lead. Tampa Bay's Cervino, he homers to put Tampa Bay on the board. Max Muncy singles, making it 3-1 LA. Renfroe home run makes it 3-2. Hernandez doubles, making it a 4-2 Dodgers lead. Lowe for Tampa Bay slams a 3-run home run to give the Rays the lead for the first time at 5-4. Los Angeles answers back on a 2-run single by Joe Peterson in the top of the seventh, making it 6-5 LA. Kevin Kiermaier ties it at 6 with a solo home run. Corey Singer for the Dodgers hits and puts the Dodgers back on top 7-6. And then in the bottom of the ninth, a walk-off hit and an error by the Dodgers catcher gives Tampa Bay the win in the bottom of the ninth. So what a game, Jack. Exciting. Had everything you could want in a World Series game. A lot of offense. The error at the end of the game, making it exciting and tying the series. Jack, what
really it was the errors at the end of the game, with the S at the end in reality.
Definitely.
We tend to remember the last play of the game, but there's a subplot, there's a lead up to it. You say Tampa Bay showed a lot of determination to win the game. I could say the Dodgers showed a lot of clumsiness to lose the game, okay? Because in reality, what we were watching at the end of the game was Little League stuff. That's what went on when I played Little League. A guy would be rounding third base, running for home, and just fall flat on his face and still make it home. When I was playing Little League, there would be a little bloop to the outfield. The center fielder would come on the ball, and he'd not only miss it, but it would hit off his glove and go way off to the side. A lot of times in Little League, we'd see the catcher have the ball, waiting for the runner at home plate to tag him out. And before the runner would even come to home plate, the catcher would find a way to lose the ball. That was Little League stuff that went on all the time. And to think that it would happen on the big league level, a sequence of 3 things like that on one play, that's like incomprehensible. But there was a lead up to that beforehand. I mean, Justin Turner, kudos to him. He became the first player in Major League history to hit first inning home runs in back-to-back World Series games. So, that's a cool stat. Corey Seager continued his tour in October. Next year, he's going to be a free agent. I wonder whether the Yankees have an eye on them, or maybe the Angels or whatever. There's talk of the Angels signing Didi Gregorius, but that's a story for another time. Mookie Betts continued to show his greatness by making a leaping catch. Randy Rosarina set a postseason record with his 9th homer. Is he really as good as he's looked in the postseason? Is it a little bit of a mirage? You know, time will tell, of course, but I'm not completely sold that he's the next major league superstar, even though he's played as such, you know, in this postseason. And of course, like an old-time player, Frankie Frisch, would say, oh, those bases on balls, putting runners on base wound up hurting both teams during the game. That 9th inning where Tampa Bay pulled out the game after being 1 run down, it gave me a sick feeling, you know, as a Yankee fan, remembering the Yankees losing the 7th game of the World Series to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Kevin Kiermaier gets a broken bat single, much the way Mark Grace got a broken bat single off Mariano Rivera. So in other words, the pitcher, Kenley Jansen, made a good pitch. And what can you do? You break the guy's back, you jam him, and he still manages to get a hit. And then those bases on balls, walking Rosarina. Then, of course, Chris Taylor, who barely made it onto the roster. Brett Phillips, who barely made it onto the roster. Brett Phillips for Tampa Bay gets that hit that just somehow got between the shortstop and the second baseman, a very weak line drive. And then Chris Taylor, the center fielder, comes in on the ball for a throw to the plate to cut off the tying run from scoring, and he bobbles the ball. And then so the game's going to be tied, but then they hit the relay man. The ball gets to Will Smith, the Dodger catcher. Rosarina fell down. He's out. There's no way he's getting, he's out. They have him. Worst case situation, game is tied, so on. We have extra innings. Will Smith swings his arm and loses the ball. Why was he swinging his arm so frantically? I guess he thought the Rosarina was coming in on him. Had he known the Rosarina was on the ground, face first after stumbling, he wouldn't have swung his arm so frantically and lost the ball. But in any event, he panicked. Ball comes loose. Tampa Bay wins. I'm shocked. I picked the Dodgers to win the World Series over Tampa Bay before the season began. I even listed the games. Dodgers in 5 games over Rays for the World Series. Dodgers are not going to fulfill that prophecy of winning in 5 games. We're down to best 2 out of 3. And I'm not the biggest believer in momentum in baseball. That's just me. Some people are going to argue. I think momentum is completely overrated in baseball. But this MAC was bad last night for the Dodgers. Momentum-wise, for how it may have crushed their spirit, their attitude. I want to take it back very quickly to the 1978 World Series that the Dodgers played in. They lost to the Yankees in the World Series the year before 1977. In 1978, you had a supremely confident Dodger team that this was their year. They were going to take care of business against the Yankees, and they won the first 2 games of that series. They're on their way. They lose Game 3 when Greg Nettles made a number of sensational plays at third base, but no sweat. They weren't expecting to sweep, but they went command. Game 4, somehow the Dodgers let that game get away and lost in extra innings. The game where Reggie stuck out his hip, best play of Reggie Jackson's career, where the ball was deflected off him when he was caught, between first and second. The Dodgers somehow blew Game 4 the way this Dodger team last night blew Game 4. Now, before Game 5, that 78 World Series, when the Dodger players had to line up for the pregame announcements, unlike the first 3 games where they were smiling, laughing, relaxed, they were stone-faced. It was like they were nervous. The realization set in, we can actually lose. Everyone knows they can lose, but they felt it. There's a good chance we could actually lose this. So when your attitude goes from you're about to celebrate, and in your own mind, even though you won't admit it to anyone, you got this. All of a sudden, you don't got it anymore. And all the nice talk, oh, we're going to regroup, we're going to put it behind us. Do you really put it behind you, Matt? You tell me.
Well, first, let me comment on a couple of things you said. First, you said it is a lot like Little League, the errors. Well, in big games, and I don't care how many years you played or if you're being paid for it or not and you're professional, you're going to make mistakes. You just hope that all the mistakes don't happen at once. And, for instance, football, hockey, you miss the puck. Football, you drop an easy pass or you fumble the ball when it's pitched to you. Things happen because we're just still all human beings. And you just don't want it to continually happen to affect the game, and this did. The catcher, he definitely didn't know that the runner wasn't coming. He was looking to make that tag, and it kind of reminds me of a guy that's wide open, and the end zone's in his view. There's nobody around him. The ball's put in his hands, and he drops the ball. And we've seen it happen many times. It's just this is the World Series, and this is the biggest games. I mean, this is it. This is for the championship of baseball. It kind of reminds me. You went through the Dodgers, and you said maybe momentum isn't big in baseball as much as maybe other sports even, but there's a certain thing to be said about confidence and doubt. I'll go back to the '86 World Series between the Mets and the Red Sox. Bill Buckner, one of the best fielding first basemen in the league, and in fact, one of the best in history, has that ground ball go between his legs playing the Mets. Mets get back in the series, and they end up winning the series. That was the Red Sox series to win. So I don't care how good you are, Jack, you're going to make an error. You just hope it doesn't affect the score. And even Bill Buckner, that did not affect the score, just kept the inning alive. So last night, the catcher thinks he's coming. He goes to swipe really quick to make sure that he makes the tag on the runner. The runner's not even there. He forgets to catch the ball before he makes the tag. It kind of bounces off his glove. And, I think, Jack, that the confidence gained when you win a game and the doubt that comes into your mind is a thing that kind of is you may not be actual momentum, but it does stick in your mind. You had the Rays down, you didn't put them away, and then you make some mistakes that let them back in the game, and all of a sudden you're tied 2-2. And who knows now? It's best, 2 out of 3. So, we'll see what happens, Jack. I just think that the Rays, they were down from the beginning. They came back. They hit that 3-run home run to go ahead. The Dodgers come back, and then the Rays don't give up. They come back again. They're there to play. They're a very good team. They may not be as good as the Dodgers on paper, but I'll tell you right now, the game is won on the field. I don't care how great of a fielder you are or how great a hitter you are. When that stress and that time comes where it's your turn to make a play, and man, it takes one miss.
Matt, small correction here, maybe big correction. Bill Buckner, it did more than keep the inning alive. They lost the game on that play, the Mookie Wilson ground ball, so that ended the game. But had Bill Buckner made the play, the game would have been tied up, okay, and so on. And another thing, Bill Buckner shouldn't have been on the field then, because even though he was an outstanding defensive first baseman when he was healthy, at that point in his career, he was playing hurt. And a lot of people feel there should have been a defensive replacement for him in the last inning. But because Bill Buckner had been such a great player and a great Red Sox, the manager, John McNamara, the thought was wanted him on the field to celebrate the final out. And it didn't, quite happen the way it did. But the following game, that was game 6. The following game, game 7, I understand what you're saying. You're making a good point. The Red Sox jumped off to a 3-0 lead against the Mets. So anything where they were in the doldrums, losing game 6 in such an incredibly heartbreaking fashion, that should have been put behind them, and maybe it was. And Bill Buckner did get 2 hits in game 7, but the Mets were riding a certain wave of confidence and came on to win that game. And I just wonder the attitudes. What no one's talking about this morning, because we're still in shock about last night's ending, is this game 5. We're going to have to take a deep breath and, just like the players say, put it behind us and look forward. Clayton Kershaw goes for the Dodgers today. To
Right.
me, this is his legacy game.
Yeah.
Clayton Kershaw, who's had his struggles in the postseason, he's had success too. His problem is he hasn't been as great a pitcher or nearly as good a pitcher in the postseason as he's been in the regular season. If Clayton Kershaw should shut down Tampa Bay, be the Clayton Kershaw that we know, and the Dodgers go on to win the series, Clayton Kershaw is probably going to wind up, World Series MVP, a good chance. And then his legacy as one of the top 10 pitchers of all time, as far as I'm concerned, is secure. But if Clayton Kershaw should pitch poorly and the Dodgers ultimately lose this series, to me it affects his legacy greatly. You could safely say he's not a big game pitcher. Now, I know he's had some good games in the postseason, like this year where he won a couple of games, so on. 3 of his 4 games he's pitched well in so far. But if you have a great pitcher, you can't expect a great pitcher to just be above average. That's not good enough, okay?
Yeah.
And if you look at Clayton Kershaw's postseason thing, you could say, yeah, he's a little better than average. To me, that doesn't do it when you're a supposed all-time great. Yeah. He's got to be the guy to set the Dodgers on the right track. He's got to shut down Tampa Bay tonight, no questions asked. He's got to be the great Clayton Kershaw tonight. If he's not, his legacy might be forever ruined, because if the Dodgers don't win the series, they've been to the World Series 3 of the last 4 years, it means, and they wouldn't have won it once. Yeah. And if you don't win it with the team you have this year, with the personnel you have, we hear the term, Mac, in sports about the window closing. Well, the window might be starting to close a year from now, okay? When Seager becomes a free agent, he might go elsewhere, so on. Another little thing we don't hear much about, Cody Bellinger, he DH'd last night. He had his shoulder supposedly was sore, whatever. I wonder did that have to do with the shoulder celebration. It drives me crazy when these players leap in the air, they bang one another, they jump, they do these unorthodox moves. And wouldn't it be ironic if the Dodgers lose this thing in 7 games and it's close? And Cody Bellinger, he should have been in the outfield yesterday. Yeah. Is anyone talking about that? Had he been in center field, had he been healthy, Dodgers might have won that game. So the Dodgers might ultimately have wind up losing this series because Cody Bellinger leaped in the air celebrating after a home run, and he banged his shoulder against another player and injured it. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jack, you when you do something good, you're going to celebrate. Maybe you shouldn't jump and hit shoulders together or whatever. But listen, I don't think that one player, and this is just me being coaching, can not playing. You can say that maybe they would have won. Maybe they would have lost. Maybe Bellinger, maybe he would have made an error. I mean, you can't really forecast that. I understand what you're saying. He's a better center fielder than what they had out there last night overall. But, Jack, I mean, there's a lot of ifs and buts in all sports. What could have happened if the guy makes the catch, if this guy's playing and this guy's not playing? As you mentioned, Buckner being injured, that ball went right between his legs. It was a slow ground ball. I don't care if he was injured or not. He still should have made the play. The most important thing that you were talking about was the pitching. The pitcher. It all depends on his mindset. Jack. We know he's got the physical tools. We know during the season, you pitch, you're comfortable, you're relaxed for the most part. I mean, you might get in some tight games, but it's the regular season, and he's been there. But now you're in the World Series. Now, what is his mindset going to be going out there and pitching the next game? Is he going to be over pushing himself, knowing he's got to shut down the Rays? Does he, try to hit the corners too much? Does his old?
Well, Kenley Jansen's been there, as a Dodgers primary closer. It's not going to affect his performance on Game 5, but I mean the general attitude of the team. The Dodgers are a very happy team if you look in their dugout. Very happy, and their confidence is through the roof.
Right.
But of all the players on their team, have they ever lost a game, a big game, in a fashion the way they did. This is a new experience for them.
I agree.
And it's mind-boggling. Once again, the mindset, they were about to go up 3-1. They were confident they'd be 3-1 all along. And tonight was supposed to be celebration night.
Right.
But like I said, the realization is set in that they can actually lose this thing now. They can actually lose it. And considering they've lost 2 other World Series recently, it's something that it's a blow that, wow, I mean, what a blow. And you don't want to hear if they lose this thing, well, next year we're going to come back stronger than ever. I hate that talk. That's the talk is okay for a team that got to the postseason for the first time, a team that's on the way up.
Right.
But when a team is as good as they're ever going to be, the Dodgers are never going to be better than what they are now, ever. There's no improving on this team. I mean, don't tell me they can improve the team or whatever. That's nonsense. They had the best record in baseball. They're the best team in baseball. And if they don't validate it with the World Series title, there's no way they can put a spin on it, looking forward. There's no way it's going to haunt them, whatever. Or it's, I think of what Tim McCarver, the great broadcaster, the great St. Louis Cardinal of Philadelphia Philly catcher, once said about the 1968 World Series. He was the Cardinal catcher when they won the 67 World Series over the Red Sox in 7 games. And his Cardinals were heavy favorites to beat the Detroit Tigers in 1968. They were up 3-1, and they somehow let the series get away. And they were leading Game 5, well on their way to repeating as World Series champs. McCarver said, I'm going to carry, he always said this, I'm carrying this to my grave. It somehow is something you never get over as an athlete. Even Bernie Williams and Derek Jeter, they say, we don't think about the World Series, that we won. We think of the ones that we didn't win, the ones that got away, like the 2003 Yankees. They were up 2-1 against the Florida Marlins.
Of course.
Yankees won their way. Just like the Dodgers were up 2-1 before last night. And then the Yankees lose the next 3. They somehow let it get away.
Well, you
never get over it, man.
Jack, in my my coaching time, I always, even to today, I mean, the games that we lost, I ended up turning around the program of a whole town. I was the head coach of the coordinator of the whole youth sports for a short time before I went on to coach high school, and it was a losing program. And in 3 years, I built it with not just me, but my coaches that I kind of recruited. We built it into a winning program where we started going to championships every year, and we won a few. But, the ones you lose, especially in that time, because of a play you should have called or you shouldn't have done. And that's the things I still think about today, where I could have won that if maybe I did this or I called this play or I put in this defense. I mean, that is the thing about losses. I mean, especially in big games. So you think about what you could have done better. And the truth be known, it is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. The Kansas City Royals against the Yankees, when the Yankees were going to the World Series, go up against them twice. And Chris Chambliss hits that 3-run home run, and I think he burned them again in the championship too.
That was the home to win in the 10th inning. 9th inning. He was leading off for the Yankees.
Right, but anyway, I mean, I know he did hit a 3-run home run to tie it or whatever it was. I mean, these are
George Brett.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking. Yeah.
But anyway, these games, I think that at that time, the Kansas City Royals, if they beat the Yankees, I think they go on to beat the Dodgers. They had a heck of a team. So anyway, I mean, when you look back at the past of anything, Jack, you're always thinking about not what you won. You celebrated, you had a good time. It's over with. It's those kind of games, those kinds of positions that haunt you for years. I mean, like I said, even today, Jack, I'll go back and think, man, if I did this. So anyway, it is done. It's 2-2. The series is tied. Kershaw has to come in. He has to be relaxed, Jack. If he tries to overpitch, starts walking people, loses control, or gives up what he did, he's got to be relaxed tonight. And Tampa Bay has a new life and I know they're going to be watching pitches more to see how he is. And just like a quarterback before a football game, you're all psyched up and you're overthrowing the football because you're not relaxed. So hopefully Kershaw does his thing tonight. He wins tonight, and hopefully Tampa Bay comes back and wins the next night, and it goes to Game 7. I would love that right now. Folks, we're going to be getting up to football here in a minute. We have Anthony Cervino, fantasy expert, will be coming in a few minutes, and we'll be talking about fantasy and doing some game matchups. There was some big signings that happened with some wide receivers. We'll get to a little bit in the show. We're going to go through. We're going to break down all the games, especially the local sports teams, like we do every week. But we had to get the World Series in, even in our football show. It was exciting. It was a bottom of the ninth. It was a walk-off. There was an error. There was an easy play that should have been made. And Jack, I'm telling you, I'm still rooting for Tampa Bay. I still want them because my team's not in there. I always go for the underdog. I know you're a Dodger fan because you're old New York. That's the
no, I'm not a Dodger. No. I'm actually not a Dodger fan.
I don't know. I think it has something to do.
I don't know why I'm rooting for the Dodgers to win.
I think it has something to do. Jack, it has something to do with them formerly being the Brooklyn Dodgers. They're not the Brooklyn Dodgers.
I'm a Yankee fan. I would have been liked by my friends in Brooklyn had I been old enough to have been a Dodger fan. I'm old, but not that old.
Right.
I'm a Yankee fan. I got to tell you a little bit of a funny story. When you mentioned Brooklyn, when the Brooklyn Cyclones came into existence, the Mets minor league affiliate, I was so excited. Brooklyn Cyclones, because I was a Brooklyn boy.
Sure.
I couldn't wait. So they're playing the Staten Island Yankees. I go to the game, all excited, ready to root for the Brooklyn Cyclones. I'm a Cyclone fan.
Sure.
As soon as I get to the ballpark, my Yankee blood came out on me. I don't know why. I'm rooting for the Staten Island Yankees.
Of course.
Just the Yankees, in me from the New York Yankees overtook being a Brooklyn guy.
Yes.
So, listen, you have certain players, certain teams, for whatever reason, we're not fans of them, but it happens to all of us. A game takes place and we start rooting for one team over the other. We don't know why. They're not our team. We're not rooting against that team. Dodgers, Tampa Bay, I couldn't care less. It used to be why I root for the American League team to always beat the National League team. But now with interleague play, it's not a big deal. American League, National League. I used to, when I was a kid, watch the All-Star game, and for something like 19 out of 20 years, the National League beat the American League, and it was pure torture because I was a big American League guy.
Sure.
Now it's so comical the way it's reversed. The American League always beats the National League this year in the All-Star game, but it's all meaningless now because of interleague play. It's all meaningless, just like we used to have fun, Mac, with the AFL against the NFL, the ABA against the NBA. You don't have like that stuff anymore.
Very true.
It's really a thing of the past, unless the XFL comes on under the rock and challenges the NFL. But
I doubt that will happen, Jack. I think that I really do. It will be very hard. They've tried it a few times with different leagues to match up against the NFL and play when they're not playing and all that stuff. I think the XFL last year was moderately entertaining. They did have some good players. They did have some interesting rules. Some of the rules I thought should have been carried to the NFL, like the kickoff rule. But, listen, I know what you're saying. And not only because, it's changed. It's changed because of the free agency. With players moving from the NFL to the to NFC to AFC, the American League to the National League. So there's really not that loyalty to a division. I know exactly what you're saying, Jack, because I used to do the same thing when the American League went up against the National League or the NFC against the AFC. I used to root for the NFC because, of course, my team's from the NFC. So with that being said,
we don't have that.
With that being said.
Oh, it's on. Okay.
Yes, sir. We got Anthony Cervino backstage. We're going to bring him on, fantasy football expert from Fantasy Football Face Off. He's going to be joining us with some fantasy advice and break down the big three games the week. So we're going to bring Anthony in right now. How are you doing today, Anthony?
How's it going, guys? I'm
Good
doing
morning,
great.
Anthony.
I'm
Hey,
doing great.
did you get a chance to watch that World Series last night at the game, Anthony?
No, not at all. I'm not a big baseball guy.
I mean, it was exciting. I mean, I like the NFL, football more than baseball, but that was one exciting game, and the comeback they made in the ninth inning to tie it up was excellent. So,
Who won and what's the series score? That's how out of the loop I am. I'm all NFL.
They're 2 games apiece now. The Tampa Bay Rays won with 2 outs in the ninth inning. They were down 1 run, and the most flukish type of play you'll ever see. The Dodgers committed a couple of errors. The base runner fell down on the Rays. It was like little league stuff the way the
Wow.
game ended. It was very bizarre.
yeah, so it was a very exciting game in baseball. So anyway, let's turn to football. Anthony, I got a couple fantasy questions for you before we get into breaking down the games. A couple of receivers were signed this week. Antonio Brown to Tampa Bay. Des Bryant got signed to the practice squad. And they were both dynamic when they played. And of course, Antonio Brown is more in the prime than Des was. But how fast does the fantasy football leagues pick up these guys and make them available to teams? The owners of teams to maybe draft or make a deal to get them. How does that exactly work?
Well, these guys like Antonio Brown, Des Bryant, like if you retired within the past couple of years, you're going to be in the free agent pool. It's just a matter of when you sign on a team. Like Antonio Brown, some people drafted him if like you're in a really deep league or in a dynasty league. You're drafting Antonio Brown in the offseason hoping he signs, but your traditional leagues, like people were grabbing Antonio Brown before he even signed with Tampa Bay. Right when they said, okay, he's narrowed it down and he can play in 2 weeks, people were picking him up.
Wow.
Des Bryant, forget about it.
Yeah. So suppose he does by chance comes up and becomes a starter. How fast does that become available to the owners? I mean, is that a pick you can go and pick or make a trade to get if you decide you want to get Des Bryant?
Immediately. You can go get a Des Bryant right now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. What are your best plays for fantasy this week, Anthony, that people can take a look at?
My best plays for fantasy, like in general or at each position?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, go each position for us, and then we'll get on.
Let me pull up my rankings here.
Juju Smith-Schuster's not in the mix, is he?
No, not yet.
Action. Wally's in action. He's missing in action.
Yeah, he had that one big game in week 1 against the Giants, and it's really been Chase Claypool ever since that game. But at the quarterback position, a guy like, Russell Wilson, he's always going to be an attractive play. But the Arizona Cardinals, they're a better defense than advertised. I actually like Kyler Murray in that game a little bit better than Russell Wilson.
Wow.
I like, Josh Allen, the past 2 games, he has not showed up. I think this Jets matchup's going to be a get-right game for Josh Allen. And also Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson both. That's going to be a high-scoring game. That's going to be a shootout. And historically, Aaron Rodgers lights up Houston, and they don't play each other a lot. But every time he's played them, Aaron Rodgers has, put up big-time numbers. Yeah. At running back, I love Alvin Kamara. The Carolina Panthers, they're giving up some of the most fantasy production of running backs this year. Aaron Jones is a player to watch. Aaron Jones is a player who's in a great matchup against Houston, but he's probably not going to play. I would go out and get Jamal Williams or A.J. Dillon. Go get one of his backups. I think both of them are going to share the workload today. Ezekiel Elliott, of course, he normally lights up Washington, but they're decimated on the offensive line. Zach Martin, the only Pro Bowler left standing, he's going to be inactive today. He had a concussion last week. So I don't know how much I can trust Ezekiel Elliott to get going today. That's a big name who you're not going to sit Ezekiel Elliott, but I would temper my expectations for him.
Okay.
Let's go run through wide receiver and tight end real quick. At wide receiver, I think we're going to see a nice game out of really the big 2 or 3 in that Detroit-Atlanta game with Kenny Golladay, Calvin Ridley, and Julio Jones. Both of those secondaries aren't the best in the league. That's to say the least. And
Has
I think
Calvin Ridley surpassed Julio Jones as the top receiver for the Falcons, you think?
I'm not ready to say that yet because Julio Jones was finally healthy last week and Julio Jones had a monster game. I still think it, and really, when Julio was out, that whole offense didn't look the same. Matt Ryan struggled to throw for 225 yards, and that's something you wouldn't normally think. If Calvin Ridley was really the best guy on that team at wide receiver, they wouldn't skip a beat without Julio.
Yeah.
And that whole offense fell apart when Julio was out. Another player I really like today, and Pittsburgh's defense is really good. They're probably the best in the league, but they can get beaten over the top by the deep ball. I actually like A.J. Brown from Tennessee. Remember back in week 1, the New York Giants, Darius Slayton had a big game. Yeah. You can beat Pittsburgh over the top. I like A.J. Brown to do that this week. And at the tight end position, of course, Travis Kelce historically has big games against Denver. I think that's going to continue. How about like a TJ Hawkinson? I think he's in line for a big game, another player out of that Atlanta-Detroit game.
Okay, great. Before we hit the big 3 games, I want to take you back to Thursday's game, of course, because we have a lot of Giants followers out there. Again, the Giants let a team at the end, the Eagles, come back and beat them. They had the game. I think a lot, Anthony, has to do with learning how to win the tight games and how to keep a team down once you're ahead. I don't think the Giants are there yet. I think they're competitive each game, except for against, of course, San Francisco. But in most of the games, they've had a chance to win them. And what are your thoughts about learning how to win the culture? I mean, the Eagles have a winning culture. They were just at the Super Bowl. They always have a solid team. So it seems that, to me, at the end of the game, especially when it's close, the better teams, the teams that have that culture, end up winning the games. What are your thoughts?
I think when it comes to culture, like the Giants, they haven't had stability at head coach since Tom Coughlin, and consequently, that is the last time the Giants were good. I think with Joe Judge and Jason Garrett, I think the pieces are there for a turnaround. They just got to stick with these guys because, I would say Judge and Garrett, they're an upgrade over who was there? Shermer last year and Ben McAdoo.
Yeah.
I like these guys. Jason Garrett, they miss him in Dallas. Whether people want to admit it or not, I'm a Cowboys fan. I miss Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
And, he's always had the guys prepared. You never once heard any player come out saying Jason Garrett did not have us ready.
Yeah.
Well, Evan Ingram had a nightmare game against the Eagles. The Giants should have won that game. And not to point fingers, but if you did, Evan Ingram was as responsible as anyone on the field for the Giants losing that game. Joe Judge obviously was, had that close relationship with Bill Belichick, being one of his assistants. The talk is that Bill Belichick inquired about obtaining Evan Ingram from the Giants. I mean, is that realistic? Could Joe Judge have been so fed up that he'd be willing to maybe flip him for something like a 4th-round draft choice?
I think you can get a lot more than a 4th round for Evan Ingram. I mean, he's a young player. He's always battled the injury bug a little bit, but Evan Ingram, he's going to be a free agent in 2022. I believe New York picked up the club option for next year, but he's very much available on a trade. And the money's there where somebody can go and give up. I think you get a 2nd round, maybe a 2nd and a 3rd for Evan Ingram. I know around the draft, the 49ers called about him to pair him up with George Kittle.
Right. See, it seems not only the injury bug with Ingram too, but it seems like in the big situations he does have little butterfingers now and then. I mean, the man, when he catches the ball in open field, he's dynamic. But even the drops too, Anthony, and the injuries. I mean, it's kind of disappointing with a player with that much talent and that much of an athlete is always injured or has bad moments in big spots. So let's get to the Steelers-Titans, and we're going to cover this the first big game. I think they're both undefeated. They're both very physical. They run the ball. They do play action. Their offensive lines are very good, especially the Titans. I don't know if Henry's going to have a big game running against the Steelers or not because of their defense. And I sure think that the Pittsburgh offense is going to have problems with that Titans defense. What are your thoughts on that?
This is going to be a low-scoring game, and both of these offenses could put up points. I actually like Tennessee's offense a little bit more, but Tennessee, they really can't and don't get going unless Derrick Henry establishes the ground game, and that allows Ryan Tannehill to drop back off the play action pass and throw the deep ball really well. If they can get Derrick Henry right into that 70 to 80 yard range, I think that's going to be enough to where you can beat Pittsburgh deep.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a low scoring game. I like the under. If you're in sports betting, I like the under in this game, and I actually like Tennessee to win at home.
I agree with that. Go ahead, Jack.
TJ Watt. I mean, would you call him one of the top 3 defensemen in the league at this point? Has he even surpassed his brother, JJ Watt?
I can't put him in the top 3 yet. But he's an excellent player. I think he fits really well into that Pittsburgh scheme. That defense is completely different when he's on and off the field. But I'm not putting him in that top tier yet.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Pittsburgh defense, especially at linebacker, is unbelievable. The Titans, of course, I think they were one of the most underrated teams coming in, and I think that that they're showing again why they went to the championship. So. It's going to be a great game, Anthony. I can't wait to watch that one.
When I think of the top pass rushers in the NFL or linemen, I think of Khalil Mack. I think of Aaron Donald and TJ Watt's just not. He's close. He's just not that game changer yet.
You don't think he's close to that point yet?
No. I wish to put a healthy JJ Watt is still more dynamic than TJ Watt right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. We have the Seahawks and the Cardinals you mentioned real quick in the fantasy update. Both teams have dynamic quarterbacks. Russell Wilson is an unbelievable clutch quarterback. Kyle Murray is just exciting. The Cardinals won last week by throwing 8 times, and he just tore up the defense with his run. A huge game for the Cardinals to establish themselves in the NFC West. I mean, they got a real tough division there. Seattle can knock them back down a peg to say you're not ready yet. At least maybe for a wild card for the Cardinals. Do you think the Cardinals have a shot?
Do I think they have a shot at a playoff spot or the division? Because that's a big question.
First beating the Seahawks today, and then maybe at least getting in the playoffs as a wild card.
I certainly see them as a playoff team. But they did play Dallas, and Dallas did give that game away. We in week 1, Arizona looked like they were going to be one of the better teams, and they knocked off the 49ers, and nobody expected that. They had a couple of nice games, and they had a couple of bad games, and they played the Jets, and they looked really good again. This is going to be a true test against Seattle. When it comes to, do I think they have a chance to win? I think they split the series last year when Kyler was a rookie.
Right.
So I do think they have a shot to win this game.
Has Larry Fitzgerald slowed down significantly? Or is it just a question he has to defer to DeAndre Hopkins now because Hopkins is the main receiver? If Hopkins wasn't in, would he be close to the old Larry Fitzgerald as far as responsibility and them going to him a lot more?
No, I don't think so. Last year, there was no DeAndre Hopkins, and Larry Fitzgerald was still that number 1 wide receiver. Yeah. And his numbers 75 for 804 in 16 games and 4 touchdowns. Even in 2018, 69 catches, 734 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's a shell of what we're used to seeing from Larry Fitzgerald. Now, he's still a quality receiver. I still think he can play in the league, but more or less in this number 3 role that we're seeing him in.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got good hands. He doesn't nearly have the speed he used to have. I mean, he's getting older. So I mean, I just love to still watch this guy play. One other thing about Seattle, I mean, the defense of the Seahawks has improved, Anthony, with Adams getting there and filling the safety. The Cardinals defense seems to be improving too. I mean, to stop the Cardinals, you're going to have to stop Kyle Murray for running. That's the number one. You have to stop that running game. And Seattle, I mean, I don't know if their running game is as good as the Cardinals, but with their quarterback Wilson, I mean, he can bring it down in a 2-minute drive. He can beat you with the pass. He can beat you with the run. And it still seems to me that Kyle Murray is not the most accurate passer. So, I mean, when it comes down, say the last 2 minutes, it's tied. What quarterback would you rather have behind center?
I'd rather have Russell Wilson, and I'd rather have Russell Wilson over most of the NFL right now. Russell Wilson, for whatever reason, this guy has never won an MVP award.
Yeah.
And, he's won, I think, at least one Super Bowl, maybe two, or at least he's been to two.
Yeah.
He's always giving Seattle a chance to win when he's on the field, no matter what he has around him. I know he has great weapons this year, but a couple of years ago, he had Tyler Lockett at receiver and a bunch of guys. They brought Marshawn Lynch back last year because their running back room was so banged up. Yeah. It's a testament to Russell Wilson.
Mac, did you really think Anthony would possibly say he'd rather have Kyler Murray over Russell Wilson at this point?
Well, I'll tell you right now, Kyler Murray in the final 2 minutes with his run and his big arm, that's not a bad choice, Jack. I wouldn't mind having Kyler Murray right now in the Giants in the last 2 minutes, to be honest with you. But anyway.
Kyler Murray is going to be a really good quarterback, and he's very unique. He's unique. Because of his size.
Wilson here and the type of year he's having. If the season ended today, Russell Wilson would be the MVP with the type of year he's having.
I would think so. Okay, on Monday night on our last game, Anthony, we got the Bears, a surprise. They're 5-1. I don't think anybody expected the Bears to be in first place after 6 games. Great defense going up against the high-powered Rams offense again in that tough NFC West, trying to stay alive in the playoff hunt. At the very least, a wild card maybe. Who are you giving the edge to on Monday night?
I'm going with Chicago. I like the underdog on the road. Jared Goff has played the Chicago Bears in 2018 and 2019, so they played, and he's 1-1 against them. They're both low-scoring game. Last year in Los Angeles was 17-7 in a win. 2018 in Chicago, 15-6 in a loss. Wow. So Jared Goff does not play well against this Bears defense, and there hasn't been a lot of turnover. It's not like this was 5 years ago. This is now, 2 years ago that they played each other. And then, of course, last year, I think the difference in this game is going to be Jimmy Graham, because you're not going to get a lot going with Nick Foles to these outside receivers. The same thing. Jared Goff has terrific weapons. They don't get going in these matchups against Chicago. So I think the biggest difference in this game could be Jimmy Graham. If Jimmy Graham can find the end zone, a one score in this type of game might be enough to put Chicago over the top. And they did beat Tampa Bay.
Yeah, they did. I think what's improved in the Rams this year more than last year, Anthony, is they have a good to solid running game this year. Last year, they kind of came away from that. There is no way Goff's going to beat you by being in a spread. He's a good quarterback. But that threat of the run, that play-action pass, very important. And that's why I think the Rams are playing a little bit better than they did in the beginning last year.
My question with the Rams now, last week I picked San Francisco to win. People thought I had my co-host on my show is a 49ers fan. He thought I was nuts. Right. And I said, look who the Rams beat. Their 4 wins were against the NFC East.
True. Very true. That's very true. I mean, it's very true.
We don't know if they're the real deal or not.
Jared Goff has a nice set of receivers around him, like Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, so on. But Jared Goff is the one franchise quarterback who you'd never hear discontent about, whether the Rams should be long-term with him or not. Somehow he's managed to escape that talk, unlike, a number of other quarterbacks around the league. And is he really that secure in his position as the franchise quarterback? Are the Rams going to look elsewhere if they don't finish the year up to expectations?
No, I think Jared Goff is married to Sean McVay. And the reason why we don't hear anything about Jared Goff's position is because of the way that organization is ran with Les Snead and Sean McVay. I think everything's kept in-house. I think they have a really good relationship. I mean, they're close enough in age when we're talking about McVay and Goff, so I don't think there's an issue there. Contrary to if the 49ers don't get it going, I don't know if they are moving off of Jimmy Garoppolo sometime soon.
That's it. It's like Jared Goff is the Rams equivalent of Jimmy Garoppolo is for the 49ers, yet you hear a buzz around Garoppolo whether moving forward he should be the 49ers quarterback. And you don't hear about Goff. So I guess you're saying it's all about relationships with the coach and the front
I think
office.
it's the relationship and how they handle their business. Like Kyle Shanahan, he's not afraid to say it like it is, where I think Sean McVay keeps it a little bit more in-house.
I definitely agree.
And
Well,
quarterbacks are like pitcher, they're fragile. You know, you can't treat everybody like Tom Brady.
How come we never talk about a major quarterback trade? For example, this is just an example. How come we don't hear talk Baker Mayfield for Sam Darnold? Now, for the Cleveland, it might not be such a bad deal. But for the Jets, Baker Mayfield's personality coming to New York, he has thin skin. So it wouldn't quite work out. But you don't hear the rumor mill. Teams have never made, at least in the last half century, a major quarterback deal, especially in season before the trade deadline. Is it a question of a new quarterback taking a lot of time to learn a team system? But nevertheless, you don't hear it, and it's very intriguing to think of that, a major quarterback deal. Jimmy Garoppolo for Sam Darnold, for example. Wow, that would be exciting as well.
I think for it to work, and you bring up system, I think it would have to be a situation like almost like a guy like Nick Foles. He's been around to a couple teams where if they traded Nick Foles to Philadelphia, that will work because he knows the system. But you can't bring like even Tom Brady, 20 years in New England, he didn't look that great in his first 3-4 weeks in Tampa Bay, adjusting to the new system. Now he's starting to get comfortable. So yes, system has a lot to do with it. And so is the paycheck that these quarterbacks get. You can't trade $35 million of guaranteed money.
That's very true too.
And without making other roster moves that you would normally make in March.
Yeah, and you'd have to know the contract too. There may be a no trade clause in there. I mean, you'd have to really look at the terms of the contract. Anthony, thank you for coming in again. We love breaking down the big three games with you and your advice in fantasy. You can see Anthony at Fantasy Football Face Off. Check him out on Facebook. Google him. He has a great show over there. Anthony, again, thank you. We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you later.
You have a great day, my friend.
Thank you.
So there you go. Anthony Cervino breaking down the great games with us. We're going to go and have a quick commercial break, about a 3.5-minute commercial break. And we'll see you guys on the flip side with Robert Butler of Sports Skope.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you're talking, they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
How you doing, everybody? And welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our football Sunday show. And we're having big guests here today, Jack. We just had Anthony Cervino in. And up next, we've got our
Mac, we can't see ourselves. We see a soccer ball, a basketball, a tennis ball, a golf ball,
that's the new format of the show, Jack, because people don't want to see our faces anymore. So we're just going to talk through the lens of what people want to see and everything. But anyway, next up we're going to have Robert Butler, who does a podcast called Sports Skope. I think he's on a Tennessee. You can correct me when he comes on here. Robert is very knowledgeable in sports, and we're glad to have him here this time because he was only in a short time last time, and I'm going to bring him on right now. And let's bring on Robert and see what's going on.
Good morning, Mac, Jack. How's it going today?
Everything's going good, Robert. We're glad to have you. We could have you more than a couple minutes today. Last time we kind of ran out of time. But as you see, I'm still learning the production of the show. So I'm having a lot of fun. That's for sure.
That's good. You guys got commercials. How'd y'all get commercials like that set up?
Well, you got to kind of go through and I don't know what production you use, what kind of stream you use, what you stream with. We use StreamYard, and I hook up Audacity to it, and that way we can go out and we can grab a couple commercials to give us a quick break until we actually get commercials on that will sponsor us, which we're working on right now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So anyway, Robert, I had you on because when we were on last time, I kind of liked your opinions. They're not always. I don't want to say politically correct, but they're good opinions that I think that give people a lot of things to think about, and I love opinions that get people thinking, whether they agree with them or not. Yeah. So what I'm going to start you out with is, there's a new thing in the league, and it's not really new, but it's kind of new because they're using a college system in the pros a lot now with quarterbacks, and there are a couple quarterbacks. Namely, we got Jackson, we got Murray, and even Josh Allen to an extent where they're actually calling plays for them to run the ball. And they seem like they're more running first and throwing later, where they're not as accurate as some of the pocket quarterbacks. But that threat of them running, keeps the game exciting, keeps the other team on their toes. So do you think a quarterback that runs actually has running plays called for him, designed for him? Do you think a quarterback like that can lead a team to a Super Bowl?
Well, it depends. It's one of those situations where you want a quarterback that can run to get out of pressure. And, I remember watching Michael Vick, if you guys recall, when they would call running plays as a called play, they weren't successful. But when you call running plays, when you have the deep routes, guys running deep, and you got the defense off the line of scrimmage, then the guy takes off and run. There's nobody, everybody's covered but him. I like that type of situation. I prefer a guy to run to get out of pressure and make a play downfield. Roethlisberger, Josh Allen kind of reminds me of him. Kyler Murray, he still throws a really good deep ball along with Allen as well. Now, as far as Lamar Jackson, it comes up more of a gimmicky thing. All their numbers are down this year. He's surrounded by a really good team, really good defense. In the preseason, I had Pittsburgh winning this division. I was really much in the minority from all the people I listen to in my area of the country and some of the national people. Running quarterbacks, yeah, that's fine. Scrambling quarterbacks, get out of pressure. Going as far back as Steve Young, that's fine. But run first, no, I'm not into. I think that defenses, even going back, like again with the Michael Vick, you look at Tampa, they eventually adapted. Those players get hurt. I do not think long term a run first quarterback can win a Super Bowl, not unless they have some kind of pocket presence and the ability to read a defense and to read a defense past their second read. You know, for instance, like Daniel Jones, it seems like the other night, he can't make his first read and he takes off running. He goes up, he's about to score on a 90-yard touchdown and trips over his own feet. But I want a guy to read the defense first.
Let me just say this. I mean, obviously, every quarterback has to have a pocket presence. We could all agree they don't have a pocket presence that they're not going to win. They can only take a team so far. But in the case of Lamar Jackson, who we just mentioned, there's no one on the defensive line who can keep up with him, match him for speed. So if he's running design plays like it's 3rd and 4, and he just rolls out quickly and sprints towards the sideline for first down, a lot of times it's going to be a fairly safe play as long as Lamar Jackson goes out of bounds or goes down as soon as he gets the first down. I think the reason traditionally the NFL has frowned upon running quarterbacks is because they're scared they get hurt. They want to keep them healthy, keep them on the field. So they feel the best way of doing that is by keeping them in the pocket. But maybe it's a little safer to let them take off, run away from danger, as opposed to just relying on the blockers. Because the NFL, the offensive lines, at least to me, have never been as bad as they've been now. I mean, the offensive lines throughout the league have been absolutely terrible. We could talk about injuries all we want, but the bottom line is there are very few teams we could say where the quarterbacks are really getting good pass protection.
Yeah, I think that is because I noticed that since 2010, when they did the new collective bargaining agreement with the less practice time, I remember reading something a few summers ago about that. The offensive lines, they're taking longer to develop, particularly these young players. That's why particularly Andrew Whitworth was a lifesaver for the Rams. And he's 38. He's my age. I mean, I'm 39. He's 38 years old and still doing a good job out there. It is taking him longer to develop. I've noticed that. And, of course, the players just don't want to practice that much. They don't want to hit that much. Well, the flip side is you're getting bad offensive line or slower to develop. And the guys that are polished, Quentin Nelson for the Colts, they're getting drafted really high right now. And I haven't seen guards go up that high here lately, except for in the last 10 years or so.
A running backs.
Let me follow up on that first, Jack.
Yeah.
Jack does make a point that the Lions are getting worse, and that's not the case in Tennessee and San Fran and the Ravens. They do have great offensive lines. I think, Robert, has something to do with the schemes, and I'll go back to the running quarterback and spreading out the field. They want to throw. They want to do quick timing passes. They want to hit them on quick slants and break something open. So they got they have 6 to 7 back defensive backs there. But when they start blitzing and you only have 5 offensive linemen and you're going to overmatch them with the defensive line, there is really not any offensive lineman that can take 2 guys at once and block them at the same time. So I believe that scheme has a lot more to do with it than even lack of practice time. as you mentioned with the Giants, we have 2 rookie tackles out there. When we spread them out, you're leaving them on an island against some of the best defensive ends or linebackers in the league. And if you're blitzing 2 guys, there's no way they can handle that. I think that's happening more and more around the league while we're spreading the field and expecting the quarterback to make that quick pass and that timing pass. Well, now you just left your quarterback. If that first read ain't there, you got a defensive man in your face. I think that has a lot more to do with it than the talent of the offensive line.
Yeah, if you guys look at the last few quarterbacks that were drafted really high, Trevor Lawrence, everybody and their brothers talking about. Me personally, I said on my show, if I had the number 1 pick, there's only 2 quarterbacks or 30 teams, I would draft Trevor Lawrence. I wouldn't, if I had Russell Wilson or Pat Mahomes, I wouldn't draft Trevor Lawrence. Any other team, I would draft Trevor Lawrence. He's an athletic quarterback. He can elude that extra blitzer, spin out of it, make a play upfield, or you got a lot of real estate there, run 5-6 yards, get out of bounds, don't take that safety head on like a Jimmy Garoppolo did in the Kansas City game last year. Was it the year before last when he took that injury and they lost all those games and ended up getting Joey Bosa? Turned out to be a blessing in disguise. But Joe Burrow can run. I do believe that the position is getting more athletic. The stickman quarterback is becoming more and more non and void.
Yeah. You got anything, Jack? You want me to keep going, my friend?
No. I mean, it's really all philosophy. I happen to like the running quarterback because I feel it gives you. It doesn't mean he can't be a pocket passer.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, I think the game has changed, significantly. And
I
it's
still
a different era.
I still believe running backs should be running the ball. That's why you have running backs. And I think quarterbacks, the only time they should run is if they're scrambling away from protection and they have an open field like a Aaron Rodgers. I would use it as a huge example. The man will tear you up with his arm, and if there's nothing there, he'll roll out. And if he needs to get the first down, he'll get a very smart quarterback.
What bothers me is the formations as opposed to years ago, where you'd have your halfback and fullback a few yards behind your quarterback. Your quarterback would take the snap. They'd be there to block for him. I mean, your backs just aren't blocking the way they did years ago and not blocking as effectively. And that kind of, bothers me, a great deal. But whatever. All the teams seem to have that problem. But notice your exceptional players, like Robert mentioned, your great quarterbacks, like Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes. They're going to find a way to elude a rush one way or the other. Okay?
Yeah, I agree with
they're
that.
Great, exceptional players.
So speaking of offense, Robert, we got a couple former Diva wide receivers that have been signing. Antonio Brown with Tampa Bay. He probably will end up being on the starting squad, of course. Des Bryant gets signed to a practice team, and if he shows any kind of promise, he's a little past his prime, maybe they'll bring him up too. Having these wide receivers that are in the league, and especially someone like Antonio Brown, coming to Tampa Bay, they seem to have a real good team this year. They have a chance at the NFC Championship. Does Antonio Brown, having a diva like that on your team, who draws attention to other things besides football, likes to talk, likes to do videos, likes to be on social media, gets in personal trouble, is that a benefit for Tampa Bay, or is that going to be a hindrance to them going down the line?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Short term, they're good for short, like 1 year. Look at Randy Moss. I think he only played. Everybody thinks he played a long time. I think he played 3 years.
3 years with New England.
Yeah, 3 years, and that personality wears thin on the coaching staff. They start complaining about a number of targets. You guys remember Stephon Diggs? He's complaining on the sideline when they're winning the game in New Orleans last year. But as far as this year is concerned, you've got strong leadership there. And you look at Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Godwin's had concussion issues. Mike Evans has had a hamstring all year. Tom Brady, I think he got behind the scenes and really did some politicking for Antonio Brown. He is a very hardworking guy. This year only, I don't even know if Brady will play next year with Tampa. Either way, he shouldn't go past next year. This is going to be – I saw his blow up. You guys see his blow up in Chicago. He's used to that structured system. I think about a year or two away from Belichick's fine. But long-term wise, I think he's going to get really frustrated. Plus, he's like 43 years old. But, yeah, short-term, guys like Antonio Brown are okay. Long-term, absolutely not. You see Chad Johnson, Terrell Owens. These guys, if you look at diva wide receivers, even the last 10 Super Bowl winners, none of them had the highest paid wide receiver, a diva wide receiver on their team. They had good receivers, but they never had the highest paid or even a diva wide receiver, even going back to Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson. They never did win anything. I think he went to like one playoff game in Detroit. And statistically, he's one of the greatest ever, Calvin Johnson.
Well, what Robert's saying, I agree with. Beyond this, you're not thinking beyond this year with Antonio Brown. He should be fine this year because there are two major factors. Tom Brady did play with Antonio Brown in New England, so there's a relationship there. For whatever reason, Tom Brady seems to like Antonio Brown on a personal level as well. And I'm sure Antonio Brown feels kind of a bond with Tom Brady. That bond's only going to last in regard to how much he's thrown the football. You know, as long as Tom Brady's completing passes to Antonio Brown's going to love Tom Brady. The discontent's going to set in when Antonio Brown's not getting the ball. But there's also the Tampa Bay coach, okay? Bruce Arians, he didn't like Antonio Brown, okay? He feels he's a prima donna, so on. He really didn't want him on the team. But Tom Brady campaigned for Antonio Brown. He wanted him bad enough, so the Tampa Bay organization gave into it. Their attitude is, we have nothing to lose. Worst comes to worst, we can cut the guy. If the guy's causing dissension or so on. So I feel it's a no-lose thing for Tampa Bay, but the upside could be great, and especially with the injuries they've had. And look at all the players they've surrounded Tom Brady with: LaShawn McCoy, Leonard Fournette. I mean, they're in an absolute win-now mode. I mean, they're not building for the future. Tampa Bay's going for it right now. And Antonio Brown, why not? If he's anything like he used to be, you're getting an all-pro receiver. What a steal.
I'll tell you why not. And Robert, I want you to comment on this too.
Okay.
Antonio Brown actually gets arrested. He has a sexual problem. I don't know exactly what happened with it, but he gets charges, and he's out in the public that he kind of made advances to this woman. He texts this woman while he's playing on the Patriots and starts harassing this woman. And that's playing for Bill Belichick, who it seems like he can take almost anybody in and correct his ways. And while Antonio Brown is a gifted athlete, he still has, I don't know if it's a mental issue, he still seems to have problems with success. Pittsburgh Steelers wanted him out there, and we found that out later. He goes to the Raiders. He doesn't even play for the Raiders. Forces his way out of the Raiders. Gets to New England, and still cannot get it through his head to behave himself and stop trying to threaten people or assault people or hassle people. You know, you're saying, yeah, maybe for this year he didn't even make it a year with the Patriots, and he didn't even make it on the Oakland Raiders team. So what I'm saying is, why, if you have something working, why do you want to fix it? What do you think, Rob?
Well, it's that lack of offense and the trust. It's Tom Brady seems to trust this guy. He trusts his route running ability. You look at Chris Godwin. You look at Mike Evans. He's got Gronk, but Gronk is just a shell of himself. He'll have a good game here. Then you won't have a good game because if he's probably got some kind of ailing injury. They're looking at it. I'm looking at this team as a defense that seems to be coming into its own, that they can lean on. They got Ron Jones there. Fournette is another problem guy. He's complained before. He's got in trouble before. He always seems to be injured. But he's a talented guy. They have him for peanuts. They can cut him at any time. I was reading over that contract. It's like league minimum stuff. And I'm sure Tom Brady went behind the scenes and say, listen, Coach, we did this in New England. We took on a Corey Dillon. Remember, he had some issues with Cincinnati. He comes into his own. That was very short term. He did win a Super Bowl with New England, and we can cut him. This guy has been suspended for 8 games. I'm sure he's going to be on his best behavior. You're getting him for half a season and possibly 3 playoff games. It's really, if he gets in a fight with somebody like a Mike Thomas, guy was on his best behavior. I don't know if they're talking about trading him. And now he gets a big contract and he's gotten a fight with a player. And there was some rumors about him getting traded with the Saints. So, I don't think they're going to lose the locker room if he had worst case scenario gets a DUI or something. He gets in a fight with a teammate, they can cut him. These guys know that Tom Brady, this thing is temporary, and they're all looking to be successful and win. So it's more that you can win or lose. I don't know.
Tampa Bay is not investing anything in these guys. That's what you got to look at it. It's not like they're taking them with a first-round draft choice.
Oh, God, no.
That'll happen. They get rid of them. That's the worst that's going to happen. They get rid of these guys, but there's a certain upside because if they do toe the line, like you mentioned, Robert, Tom Brady was used to that at New England. Certain guys with a reputation they bring in, and it would pay off for them, and it could pay off this year. Listen, for whatever reason, Tom Brady invited Antonio Brown to stay in his home. So obviously there's got to be something there where he feels a kinship with the guy, he connected with him, and so on. And they're going for it now. Now, 2 years from now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers might be one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, but they're built to win right now. I mean, this is it. It's either go all in or, there's no other way of doing it.
Right.
Go all in.
And, Bruce Arians come out of Bruce Arians come out of retirement. So who knows how long he's going to be here.
Right.
Well, playing football, coaching football, I'll tell you, there's a lot to be said about the locker room and distractions, especially when you have a winning team. And you guys do make a valid point. Which team is the most surprising to you this year, Robert, and which team is the most disappointing to you this year?
Well, it may be the same team. I don't know. I mean, Dallas's defense and Mike McCartney with Mike Nolan, he did a fair job defensively with the 49ers 2005, 2008. Their defense is historically bad. I mean, they're like 32nd points, 32nd in yards passed. And you got people in the locker room making comments about Dallas, this and that. They did lose a cornerback, Byron Jones, in the offseason. They had some injuries. I think McCoy got hurt. But they've paid some linebackers, and they've paid players on that team. You got Lawrence, you got Vander Esch, you got Jalen Smith. Very disappointed in them. And the same thing with I'm surprised about them and surprised about the secondary of the play of Minnesota with how bad they played. Now, they've lost some players as well, but you're starting to hear these rumblings about Mike Zimmer. And I just think that's more of you kind of hit a ceiling with your quarterback there and Kirk Cousins. I wouldn't have re-signed him. I would have tried to make a play for another quarterback in Minnesota. So between the Minnesota story and the Dallas situation with their defense and not wanting to do anything and make corrections as far as Dallas is concerned, it's really shocking that they haven't either fired some assistants on Dallas's defense personnel or even actually remove the coordinator for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, I would put, I agree with you, especially with Minnesota. They were picked by some people to win the division this year, and they're 1-5. And surprising, what do you think about the Cardinals? I'm going to say the Cardinals and the Panthers this year, and not forget Miami. Those 3 teams seem to be competing, winning some games. And a lot of people didn't expect Miami to come up and be in second place right now. Didn't expect Carolina to start off 3-3. And St. Louis Cardinals are St. Louis Cardinals. I'm still back in the 80s. The Arizona Cardinals, they seem to be a legitimate playoff contender only in Kyle Murray's second year. What do you think about those three teams?
Well, as far as the Cardinals are concerned, I am a little bit surprised. I was not sold on Cliff Kingsbury, but it has worked out for them and Kyler Murray. That's a situation where you had a quarterback, and I can't remember the guy's name here. He's actually with Tampa now. He was with Miami.
Josh
Rosen. Yeah, Rosen.
And he's on the Tampa Bay practice squad.
Yeah. So he's learning under Brady there. I still don't think Arizona's going to win that. That's just too tough a division. You've got an MVP candidate with Russell Wilson there. The 49ers are getting healthy. The Rams are still got one of the best defensive players in football. I still see them as the bottom as far as being coaches concerned. Kyler Murray, they're just in a really tough division with Arizona. As far as Miami, I can see them. Reggie McKenzie, keep that name in mind. He is a guy that's pulling a lot of the strings for Miami as far as general manager is concerned and player scouting and everything. This guy's coming over from he used to work with Oakland, and he also comes from the Green Bay Packers staff. Reggie McKenzie is got an eye for talent. And keep an eye on this. Keep this in mind that Miami has Houston's first round pick. So good things. Now Miami's not going to go. I don't think they're going to go to the playoffs this year. I think I saw this coming. I'm not really surprised in Miami. They're probably a 6-10 team, 7-9 at the best. We're going to see how Tua plays coming out. But going forward with their draft picks, you got plenty of starts out of Tua. If you may be able to, if Tua gets hurt again, you got an option to go out and get another quarterback because he's coming back from a serious hip injury. So really good for the future for Miami. Don't see them making it this year, but the future is very bright for Miami. And I haven't said that probably since Jimmy Johnson, to be honest.
Well, it's an interesting move about going to Tua. I think the players inside the locker room knew that was inevitable. But Ryan Fitzpatrick is wildly popular with the Dolphin players. I mean, they all love him there. And the move to Tua in itself, they would accept. But Ryan Fitzpatrick had a lot of incentives in his contract based on performance, playing X amount, and so on. He's probably not going to meet those incentives now because Tua is going to be on the field instead of him. So with all that lost money, I mean, wouldn't it be a matter of goodwill if the Dolphins wound up giving him that money, saying, look, you performed really well your first 6 games. That's not the reason you were replaced. It had nothing to do with your performance. It's because Tua is our quarterback of the future. And there's also a school of thought that I have, at least. This is just coming from me, that maybe Miami doesn't want to pay that money. That's why they went to Tua the way they did. Maybe that's why the timing is right. Maybe that's what the Dolphin, front office decided. Let's go to Tua now so we can avoid paying Fitzpatrick, the extra millions of dollars he would get in performance clauses. I mean, but what could that do to the locker room for the players who know Fitzpatrick is really getting shafted financially?
I just think that the players are worried about themselves and their own situation. Ryan Fitzpatrick has played for a million teams. He is the journeyman quarterbacks, and he knew the situation. The guys come from Harvard. He knew he was going to be there to school Tua. I thought it would probably be after around week 11, something like that. I didn't think it would come this early because we didn't have a preseason, but the fact that they had the bye week and Tua must be looking good in practice. They're saying, okay, let's just go ahead and put him in here, get some starts. I think more there's a concern about what if Tua re-injures himself? Let's get him out here now and see that because we got all this draft capital I was talking about with Houston. Houston's losing big time. That's just helping Miami. Plus, Miami's got 3rd pick. And I think they have Houston's 2nd-round pick as well. Yeah. And Miami seems to be in really good shape salary cap-wise. If it's me, I pay Fitzpatrick. because you're not strapped. I mean, they tore that team down to the studs last year. They got rid of everybody that's making money last year, including Tunsil. So you're right. I would hope that they make that right, because this is not a New England situation or a Rams situation. Two teams who are in salary cap, just dead money. That's not the situation in Miami. And like you said, I really hope that they make it right with the guy. Keep this kid could get hurt again. A hip injury is very serious, and plus my issue with Tua is he's got a little Baker Mayfield syndrome. He thinks he's faster than what he is, and he gets caught from behind a lot. And hopefully in the NFL, because he got caught a lot in I watch a lot of the Alabama games down here. He got caught from behind. That's how he got hurt. He got caught from behind. So hopefully he doesn't have that habit. Working with Chan Gailey, he's a veteran offensive coordinator. I think that's going to be okay. You're right. I mean, how do you bench a guy when you're coming off a 24-0 win like that?
Yeah,
Robert. I think this was if they were going to replace him, would be the perfect time because of the bye. Fitzpatrick was really clapping for him. He knew what the situation was, like Jack said. Why not put him in now? See what he's got for the rest of the year. If he's as accurate as he was in college, maybe they have a shot at that wild card. So, I think this was the perfect time to put him in because of the bye. And like you said, with the limited preseason, get him some extra reps. You go forward, and you always got Fitzpatrick sitting on the bench if something happens. So, Robert, we're gonna have to say goodbye for now. I hope you come back in next week. We love having you on. It was great to actually get a chance to talk to you this time. And everybody out there, go to Sports Skope with Robert Butler. Check out his podcast. It's very interesting, very entertaining. He has some great shows. And go ahead and look him up. So thank you again, Robert. And you have a great day.
Thanks, Robert.
And enjoy the games today.
Oh, definitely, my friend.
Football and baseball.
Woo! Yes. Oh, yeah, World Series.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It was a great game. So thanks again, Robert, and we'll see you next week, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks.
All right, so that was Sports Scope Robert Butler. We had a shot actually to talk to him today, and he's a very knowledgeable man, Jack. He has some strong opinions on certain things. That's why I wanted to get him on.
Well, next week when he comes on, I want to ask him about Jalen Hurts.
Right.
He's watched. He just said he watched a lot of Alabama games.
Yeah.
Does he really think Jalen Hurts can be a quality NFL starting quarterback? Because the way Jalen Hurts is being used by the Eagles now, I hate it. And Reggie Bush, just recently criticized the Eagles for that. But we could get back to that after our seventh inning stretch.
We sure can. In fact, we got all the games we still got to cover, Jack, and especially the locals. So we'll go ahead and we'll hit you with a couple commercials here, folks. We'll be right back on the other side, and me and Jack will now start doing our job and breaking down the NFL games for today. So we'll be right back, folks. Thanks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
All make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. It makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
I love it, Jack. I love it, man. We're right now. We're doing a trivia question in my brain right now, Jack. So, so we'll go ahead and we'll try
We
that.
have trivia today.
No, we don't, Jack. We're gonna cover some games. Again, that's me with my great, production value here. But we're gonna get you right back on track here with a little good music here to bring us back in from the commercial, and we'll go ahead and run some graphics here for you because today is our NFL football show, and we're gonna keep going forward with that, Jack. So let's see what we can do.
They're about today.
Yes, sir.
2006 NFL football shows that people could turn to TV, radio, so on. I mean, we're more of an authority than what they could do on the web. A lot of former players.
Yes, we know.
Maybe we have an edge. Maybe they know too much.
Who's that,
Relate
Jack?
more to the common fan.
Yes, we
We
could be,
like to
Jack.
talk basics. We like to make it simple. I
Right.
mean, I'm not going to talk about who's playing right guard for the LA Chargers or so on.
Yes, sir. Well, what we're going to do, Jack, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the NFL games. We'll save the locals for last, and we'll talk a little bit about the matchups today. We got the Panthers at the Saints. The Panthers seem to be playing really solid ball right now. They're 3-3 under Rule, one of the coaches that we almost picked up. He seems to have the defense playing well. The running game is starting to come together. The Saints, they don't look as sharp as they've been in past years. They're favored by more than a touchdown over the Panthers. I mean, we'll see what happens, Jack. I would love to see the Panthers give the Saints at least a competitive game, maybe win. It would be nice to see a young coach with an up-and-coming team beat a big team like the Saints. What do you think?
New Orleans is the toughest place for a road team to win at, but that's with fans in the stands. So with hardly anyone in the stands that only filled to partial capacity, the home field advantage isn't that great for the Saints. Who would have ever thought for the Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater to Robbie Anderson is one of the top 10 passing duos in the league?
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater and Robbie Anderson were on the New York Jets together.
Right.
Now they're with Carolina, and the Jets have. Yeah, I don't have to tell you. I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't have gotten Sam Darnold instead of Teddy Bridgewater. That's debatable. But Robbie Anderson really should still be a Jet. The Jet loss is Carolina's game. And with that said, Saints should win the game, even though they're a bit banged up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Is Thomas playing this week? I haven't read nothing about that.
He's questionable. The last I heard. And
yes, and as Mr. Butler told us just a minute ago, there's talk of him getting in a fight with a teammate. I mean, I don't know what happened. It's rumors, and a lot of times when you're not playing, you're frustrated. And with that injury, and the Saints don't look as I don't want to say as good as they were. They just don't seem as sharp right now. Maybe the end of the season they kick it in. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I couldn't understand, Mac, a lot of people making the Saints a preseason pick to win the Super Bowl, because to me their window closed with the controversial playoff loss to the Rams, then losing to the Vikings last year. And Drew Brees, even though he's still a very good, competent NFL quarterback, he's not the great Drew Brees that we knew before.
That's true. That's very true. I mean, age catches up to you eventually, Jack, no matter how great you are. We got the Packers at the Texans. The Texans are having a lot of problems right now. They had that one big win, and I don't think a lot of players right now are happy there. I mean, I know that they're not playing as well as they did in the recent years. The Packers had that big loss against the Patriots. I imagine they'll bounce back this week. I can see Aaron Rodgers having a huge game. The Packers have a decent running game. They got a solid defense. And the Texans kind of, I think, are searching for an identity right now, both on offense and defense. I like the Packers. What do you think, Jack?
Now, funny thing about the Packers, when we talk about them, we never talk about Aaron Rodgers' tight end, Mercedes Lewis, who's been in the league for 15 years. A 15-year career in the NFL is like, wow, not too many players have a career like that. But you mentioned a moment ago them coming off a loss, and the way the Packers lost to Tampa Bay last week, believe me, someone's going to have to pay for that, this week, and that's going to be the Texans, because Aaron Rodgers is really going to bounce back strongly. And I'm a big Deshaun Watson fan. They lost the heartbreaker to the Titans and so on, but the Texans are 1-5. It's a little unfortunate. Had they moved on from Bill O'Brien before the year, chances are their record would have been better. They still would have perhaps been in the running for a playoff spot. But considering that the Texans made the playoffs last year, it just fell apart this year. I think the turning point with the Texans happened in the offseason. When you trade DeAndre Hopkins, what type of message does that send to the rest of the team? Unless you're getting a big haul in return, and it's something they didn't get.
I agree with that 100%, Jack. We got the Lions at the Falcons. Matthew Stafford, I feel bad for him like I felt bad for Barry Sanders. Great quarterback. Never really put it together for him like they didn't do for Barry. The Falcons had a big game last week. It seems that maybe getting rid of that coach sent a message to them saying, hey, anybody can get fired here. I kind of like the Falcons this week, Jack. I don't know if the Lions are up to the task. They played really good last week, but I'm going with the Lions. What do you think?
Yeah, you're going with the Lions. Okay, I'll go with the Falcons. I mean, It's a who cares game, unfortunately. The Lions stand at 2-3, and when you pick up a future Hall of Famer like Adrian Peterson past his prime, and you make him a featured back, you're doing that more on reputation than what he can offer right now. And they're two teams that aren't really going anywhere, because early in the year, like I mentioned in the past show, Matthew Stafford against the Bears at the end of the game hit a receiver wide open in the end zone. Had the ball been caught instead of dropped, the Lions would be 3-2. think of how we'd be looking at the Lions now if they were 3-2 instead of 2-3. It would be more than one game. Our whole perception of them, would have changed. But I don't see the Lions or Falcons going anywhere. They each have their excellent veteran quarterbacks and Matthew Stafford and Matt Ryan, but they're kind of being wasted on teams like that. Even though Ryan's been a career Falcon, Stafford a career Lion, you kind of wonder if a little change in scenery, wouldn't have helped them. Because both guys could have done what Nick Foles did, if they went elsewhere.
I agree with that 100% too, Jack. I think they're both very good quarterbacks. The Falcons did go to Super Bowl, but they let the Patriots come back and beat them in a crazy game. The Browns at the Bengals. Cleveland just got manhandled last week. You saw Odell Beckham Jr. Getting a little upset on the sidelines again, hitting the cooler and stuff like that. The Bengals, I didn't expect them to do a lot this year anyway because they are such a bad team. Burrows has made them exciting at least. They have won, I think, one game if I'm correct. The Browns had better beat the Bengals. If the Browns don't beat the Bengals, I think the Browns, again, fooled a lot of people. They have a lot of talent. They got a wide receiver, at running back. They got a good defense. They got a playoff caliber team again this year. If they lose to the Bengals, I can see a total mutiny over there, Jack.
Let me tell you something. That is a dysfunctional team. They better beat the Bengals. They beat the Bengals, they're 5-2. If the Browns collapse this year, they're going to need a makeover because with Baker Mayfield, he has such thin skin. You're in Cleveland, and the criticism is getting to him. His wife is tweeting back about her husband, and Baker Mayfield could put a stop to that. She's telling the Brown fans to cool it, this and that. So there's turmoil, and they're 4-2.
Yeah.
4-2, and there's turmoil. They've got a good record, okay? They're contending for a playoff spot. There's a lot more at stake for the Browns today than there is for the Bengals. The problem with the Bengals is Joe Burrows. They have to protect him a bit better. He hasn't really stretched the field for more than 20 yards because he's been under constant duress. Yeah. He's the quarterback of the future, and good things are going to happen to the Bengals in the coming 2-3 years. And with the Browns, like you mentioned, Odell Beckham having a fit on the sideline. So for all you people out there who criticize the Giants for making a deal, moving on from him, how awful it was, I want you to come forward now, because if Odell Beckham was still with the Giants now, nothing positive would come up of it. He'd be having fits on the sidelines, so on, and but they're going to have to move on from Odell Beckham at some point. But at what price? What can Cleveland get in return? But more importantly, I think they're going to have to move on from Baker Mayfield. With that said, the Browns should have too much talent. They should win the game today. But if they don't, wow, the turmoil that's going to be going on during the week is going to be heavy.
I definitely agree. And you can't fire the coach again. That's, we're starting to see that maybe Kittle's maybe that wasn't his fault. Maybe that locker room, maybe that organization.
They're going to move on from they're going to move on from Baker Mayfield at the end of the year if that team doesn't at least have a winning record and come up at 9-7. They're going to move on one way or another. When Mayfield is going to go, someone is going to like him. Someone's going to want him to be their quarterback.
Well, that's the only answer I agree with Jack. That's the only answer there could be. The Cowboys against Washington. If the Cowboys lose to Washington, listen, Washington is not a very good team right now. They got a great head coach. I imagine they're just trying to take steps to retool and rebuild their program. The Cowboys, if they do lose to Washington, I don't know what the heck the Cowboy fans are going to do. I can only imagine the fans' outpour if they lose to the Washington.
Cowboys have been so mad. Imagine the Cowboys who are getting towards rock bottom, hit rock bottom. Imagine they don't win another game this year, and somehow the other teams like the Jets win a couple, and the Cowboys are in line for Trevor Lawrence. Wow, wouldn't that be great stuff?
That'd be interesting. Very interesting.
But I don't think that's going to quite happen. I think the Redskins are beating them today. It could go. They're the Cowboys in name only. In name only. They can't protect Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's not that mobile at this point. I mean, they're a mess. Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, he had fumbleitis, but even if he solves the fumble problem, the team is a mess right now, a complete mess.
Okay, Jack, so let's go through the rest of these really quick so we can get to the locals. We got the Jaguars at the Chargers. There's no reason that the Chargers – well, maybe there is a reason. I see the Chargers winning this. It should be a close game. They're both having problems. The Chargers have been more competitive, I think, than Jaguars. I see them winning that.
I see the Chargers winning it handily. What's going to make this NFL season a little more interesting than some other NFL seasons, Mac? We're not only looking to see who is going to have the best records and how they're going to position themselves for the playoffs. We're going to be looking at the worst teams because the very worst team is in line for Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
And if you're talking about the Jets, who we're going to get to soon, of course, will Trevor Lawrence even want to come to the Jets? Now, Jacksonville's intriguing. They have one win this year. Jacksonville doesn't necessarily have to have the best record. If they're close enough and have one of the top 3-4 picks, plus add in some other picks, they're in line for. They badly need a franchise quarterback. Badly. Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, right. So the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes we're going to be looking towards.
The Chiefs and the Broncos. I don't think there's any question that the Chiefs beat the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos had a big win against the Patriots last week, but I don't see the Broncos really even giving the Chiefs a game this week. How about you, Jack?
I think the Chiefs win handily over the Broncos. The Broncos upset New England in large part because the New England offense with Cam Newton really could never get it going. They're not keeping Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in check. And Le'Veon Bell, his first game as a Kansas City Chief today. Chances are they're only going to use him in short yardage situations today, and that they're not going to really use him a great deal. Let him get his feet wet, see how he could, help the Chiefs going forward. But the Chiefs win this game handily.
Interesting game, Jack. We didn't bring it up with the top three with Cervino, but I think this is going to be a real good game. Tampa at the Raiders. The Raiders are playing some unbelievable ball right now. It's a very tough team. Carr looks good. The defense looks good. It looks like Gruden is molding them in their image against Tampa, who came off a big win against Green Bay. I think this is going to be a very close game. Tampa may edge them out, maybe by 3 points to a touchdown. But I don't put it past the Raiders or that game for the Raiders to win this, Jack.
Well, that's my upset special this week. I mean, last I heard, Buccaneers were favored by 8 points, but they're banged up. They're like banged up. There's a bunch of injuries. Players are questionable. Everything surrounding him. Brady doesn't have his usual weapons for this game, and the Raiders are primed, I think, to pull an upset in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a big surprise, but a lot of people thought, here's Gruden. He's been out of football too long, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden the Raiders are jumping out there.
And Derek Carr's reemergence has been, a storyline people don't talk about. There was a big question whether Gruden was going to stick with Derek Carr as his quarterback when he got Marcus Mariota. Even though Mariota was set to come on board as a backup. We wondered whether there'd be true competition for the job, but Derek Carr's answered the bell, and he's done a great job for the Raiders this year.
Definitely agree with that, Jack. And who knows? There's, like I said, there's 2 playoff card openings, and the Raiders are up there competing for it right now. So I'm really glad to see that. Las Vegas, it doesn't seem right for a team name, but it is what it is. Buffalo and the Jets. So here come one of our first local matchups. Buffalo has, kind of really fell flat on their face in the last 2 games, happened to be in prime time. If they're going to get better, it's going to be today, Jack, against the Jets. Sam Darnold comes back. He's playing today against the Bills, whose defense isn't as good as it has been in the past. Do you see any way that the Jets could maybe squeak out and surprise Buffalo with a win today?
No. I mean, this is the NFL. I mean, anyone, they say on any given Sunday. I understand that, okay? I'm talking about realistically. What happens, Mac, when you're sick? What's the thing that helps someone get better? It's medicine. And
Right.
the Bills having their best medicine possibly by having the Jets on their schedule and coming off 2 losses in a row. Buffalo isn't going to be complacent. They have to right the problems they're having, especially that defense, who was considered one of the best in the league until the last 2 games in which they performed really poorly. And with the Jets, I think the storyline the rest of the year, it really isn't going to be Adam Gase. It's going to be Sam Darnold. Okay? Is Sam Darnold their quarterback of the future? They have to have the answer at the end of the year. Right now, the answer is yes. If the Jets keep playing the way they are, they might very well go 0-16. Right now, the Jets are the favorites to land the number 1 overall choice in the draft. But guess what? It doesn't mean Trevor Lawrence is going to come here. He has 1 more year of eligibility at Clemson. If he hates the idea of going to the Jets, he'll stay in college 1 more year. And for those of you who say it can't happen, it has happened before. Peyton Manning was the Jets' number 1 overall choice, or would have been. Peyton Manning knew that and decided to stay an extra year at Tennessee because Peyton's dad, Archie, knew what a terrible fit it would be for Peyton coming to the Jets because Peyton had thin skin and didn't want to go over. And he knew the criticism of the New York media would play very badly with his son, unlike Eli, who has thick skin, who would let things roll off. But with that said, getting that number 1 overall draft choice is going to mean a lot because if the Jets decide Sam Darnold's their guy, even if they lose the rest of their games, they can get a boatload of picks for Trevor Lawrence for that number 1 overall pick. Or they could, Trevor Lawrence is going to be a Jet. They could trade Sam Darnold, probably get a later round, 1st round pick. So there's really a tremendous amount at stake here that if you're a Jet fan, in a certain sense, I hate to say this, but if they keep losing, something good could come out of it in the long run for you, and it's painful to say that.
Well, with the trade of Adams, they got a lot of draft picks for Adams coming up. Again, a player that was not happy being in New York. I think it was all the way that was handled from Adams and the organization was totally ridiculous. But they did get a lot of draft picks for him. And as you say, if Trevor Lawrence is available, he knows that the Jets are going to trade him to another team. He may decide to come out and would bring a lot of draft picks to Jets Roy. There's no doubt about it.
Not necessarily, Mac. If the Jets determine Trevor Lawrence is significantly better than Sam Darnold, if they're not completely sold on Sam Darnold completely going forward, they are going to take Trevor Lawrence and they're going to trade Sam Darnold. Okay.
Well, again,
if Trevor Lawrence is truly a great quarterback, they're going to take him for themselves. The question is, will Trevor Lawrence
that's
to come to the Jets?
That's what I was just saying. If he does not want to come to the Jets, which has been reported that he would stay in school, if the Jets would guarantee him that they're going to trade him to another team, maybe he does decide to come out, Jack. And if they do guarantee him they're going to trade him to another team, I don't think they would backstab him by trying to draft him because he still could stay in college. So all I'm saying is that if they do get the 1st round draft pick and Trevor Lawrence is there and they call his agent or whoever's representing him or him personally or his family and say, hey, listen, we're going to trade you. Don't worry about it. he might come out, and that's all I'm
Mac,
saying.
it's a great game of chicken. What the Jets could do is draft Trevor Lawrence and just refuse to trade him. We had this power play before with John Elway, with the Baltimore Colts, where they gave in and traded him to Denver. Eli Manning, where the Chargers drafted him, but they knew they had to trade him to the Jets. If the San Diego Chargers had absolutely refused to trade Eli Manning and drafted him, chances are Eli Manning would have been a career San Diego Charger. He would have given in, reported to camp eventually, and think about the way New York and football history would have been changed had he been a San Diego Charger. In the case of John Elway, who refused to play for the Baltimore Colts, John Elway had a very nice plan B. The New York Yankees drafted him. They had him slotted in. John Elway, unlike Tim Tebow and Michael Jordan, was a hell of a baseball player. John Elway could have made a career in baseball and conceivably had been an all-star, okay, and maybe a perennial all-star at that. So he had kind of an out playing for the Yankees, so on. So if the Jets draft Trevor Lawrence and call his bluff, and Trevor Lawrence decides to stay at Clemson an extra year, the Jets get nada. They get nothing. Nothing at all. So what a game. Who's going to blink first? But keep in mind, there was a little talk Joe Burrow didn't want to go to the Bengals this year.
Right.
But eventually he didn't keep it going. He gave in. But if a player's adamant he won't go somewhere,
but Burrow's
unlike
Trevor, that was his last year. He couldn't
Mac,
stay.
I didn't see the time. You want to finish the games up very quickly here. Wow.
Yes, we're going to 49ers and the Patriots, Jack. The Patriots had a kind of a bad loss against Denver, maybe a trap game. Maybe it was because, Cam was out for the week. The 49ers seem to have got it back together again. At least last week they did. They still have some key injuries. I don't know, Jack. I think that with Bill Belichick, I think that the Patriots have a chance against the 49ers. The front four of the 49ers is dangerous. Cam can move around. Jimmy Garoppolo, I would imagine that Belichick has some kind of plan for him. Maybe helping him see ghosts like he did with Sam Darnold. I like the Patriots to do a little upset here, Jack. What do you think?
I like the Niners, but just the idea you're saying, well, I think the Patriots have a chance. What's this world come to when you say the Patriots have a chance? I mean, come on. But Garoppolo returning to New England, that's a storyline.
Right. And I still believe that that Bill Belichick will have something planned for him. The 49ers do have a good running game. The Patriots will stop that. Garoppolo will have to throw, and that's where the fun will begin.
Let me tell you something. A part of Bill Belichick, a small part, would smirk, with satisfaction if Jimmy Garoppolo lit the Patriots up. Because his thing, he could turn to Robert Kraft. Well, I told you we shouldn't have gotten rid of him, so on.
Yeah.
So a small part of him, wishes Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a tremendous success. Not in this game.
Not in this game, I don't think, Jack. I think he wants to go out there and make Garoppolo look like a fool and make himself look.
Yeah, for this given game.
Right, for this game only, and this game only. But
Garoppolo has a big game. Belichick's thing is that was our guy. I never wanted to get rid of him.
I can definitely see him thinking that.
Kraft.
So, Jack, we're coming to the end of the line. We're down to our last minute here. I want to thank Anthony Cervino, our fantasy expert from Fantasy Football Face-Off, but he comes on and breaks down the top 3 games with us and does a tremendous job. It was great having Robert Butler on for a time this time instead of last time from Sports Skope. Check out both their sites. Give them a look. They're both very good at what they do. Jack, a great show. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We'll be back Wednesday, and with our Wednesday show, I might have a couple exciting guests lined up there. They're still in the works right now. And Thursday, we might have another special guest coming in to join John Scully on our basically our Boxing Day. We cover
Thursday we're going to have this Thursday. We're having Bernard Fernandez, who was a sports writer for the Philadelphia Daily News for 28 years, was recently inducted, or is going to be officially inducted this June, into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in Canastota. Bernard covered all sports, predominantly boxing, but he covered Penn State football during Joe Paterno's time and some other sports as well. And for you fans around the Philadelphia area, well, he'll be great to listen to.
Very cool, Jack. So we're going to cut out for today. And Jack lined up that big guest for us. Jack is almost as good as me and our assistant producer at booking guests now. So we'll see you Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed the show, and it was a pleasure doing it for you guys. And we'll see you after the games. Enjoy the games today, and we'll see you Wednesday, guys. Have a great day.